How did you get into the whole access to all areas kind of thing?
It's really random. My training is in fashion and textiles, and that's what I did for a few years before moving back up to Manchester. And I was working for my parents in an office job. It was really boring. I was really bored all the time, so I kind of started doing other things to entertain myself. And part of that was doing something called obstacle course racing, which is the easiest way to explain it is like Tough Mudder. And then I started writing about that and getting quite involved in the community. Through doing that, the channel, Insight TV, found me to take part in a show they did, which is called Spartan X, which is like a kind of sports game show.
Right.
I did that, and immediately after they asked if I wanted to work for them.
Oh, brilliant.
I was like, yep, that would be amazing. I'm not going to say no. And Access All Areas was one of the shows that they commissioned for me with Sky Vision in the UK. So it was a very fast path to it once it started. A really random one. And when people ask for advice on how to get into the industry, I can't give them any advice whatsoever because I don't know.
So would you say it was kind of a lucky kind of in the right place at the right time kind of scenario for definite?
I think so. I think a case of just, and I think this happens with a lot of people, go out and do the thing that you really enjoy and something good will probably happen just because you're so enthusiastic about something and you're doing something because you love it, not to be successful or to make money or to do anything. And very, very often something good happens because that shines through more than anything. So yeah, it was doing something that I really enjoy and a big old stroke of luck at the same time.
Cool. I like those ones, those classic kind of stories. Right, yeah, I worked for like 15 million years and then I got into surface now.
I was a runner and I did tea and everyone hated me and my life was awful. And then
they're the ones, yeah.
20 years of doing that, I was on local radio. No, thankfully that I didn't have to put in all that legwork.
So when you first started up with the Access All Areas show, did you? I mean, obviously, at some point you would have known exactly what was going to be asked of you and where you was going to go and that kind of stuff. But did you really know when you kind of got into it you'd be going everywhere? No.
No, I mean there were two series that were commissioned with Sky from Insight. So Sky were the production house who made the shows, and Insight are the broadcasters. And we did one series prior to Access All Areas, which was called Ultimate Processes. It was a lot easier for me. It was a lot more scripted. It was a kind of how do they make it. It was like a gentle introduction for me in order to get into doing this job that I'd never done before. And then originally the show had a different title. It was supposed to be the world's most dangerous places, but they decided not to send a rookie young lady into the world's most dangerous places. And then it kind of became those terrifying places, and then it became Access All Areas. It kind of evolved. But no, I mean, I didn't actually know where I was going up until a day or two before I was going there. Then the stories were being written whilst I was kind of, the research was being done, and then I go, all right, okay, you're going to Morocco. And I'd be like, right, okay, I'm currently in Wales, and I've got a day to pack to go to Morocco. So I spent a lot of time on Amazon whilst I was in between filming going, desert boots. And then a lot of information would be withheld in order to kind of make it a lot more realistic, if that makes sense. So it's rather than, because you do watch a lot of programs and you think, well, the people in this must know everything that's about to happen, and I don't believe this. But I mean, in my case, I sometimes knew. There was very little that was actually scripted, so when I'm chatting, it's on the whole, there'd be a few parts of it. I hate doing scripted things because it's just rubbish, and it was kind of quite real, if that makes sense. So,
yeah, so your reaction was your reaction, to be fair, in most cases when you're out there in the middle of it, sort of thing. Like I think I saw one of the episodes recently where you're in Iceland, and you actually did try some interesting food. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And that was the reaction was definitely
genuine. Yes, the shark meat. It was disgusting, and to to be fair, I think I could eat that 20 times and you'd get the same reaction from me. It was awful. But yeah, that's a surprise what's going to happen. I think it's quite good, but then you can honestly say what you're seeing is what you're getting. In a way, the show is scripted because obviously you need to know.
Oh, yeah.
You need to have plans of where you're going to go, but it's not as in, this is my script and I'm going to read this, and then what I'm telling you is what somebody else has written for me. What I'm telling you is what I've just come up with in my head and what I'm genuinely thinking.
That's pretty cool.
Which is actually far easier than learning words.
What I like about the show is I used to watch. I don't know if you've ever seen it. I used to watch a show a while back, a paranormal show with Josh Gates called Destination Truth.
Right.
And they basically go looking for supernatural creatures and things like that. And they pretty much go, but rather than going to the standard places like you, they went off to weird and wonderful places. I mean, I like the way in your show it's kind of a cross match between oddities and weird things, but also things that are actually normal kind of threats and things like the gangs in Nepal and all that kind of stuff. It's that kind of cross match I find quite interesting because it's like a normal reality that we all have to deal with, but also that kind of paranormal or supernatural element that we all like hear stories about. But then it's kind of like, oh, that's a bit weird. Like you went looking for trolls in Iceland with it, and it's like things like that, and witches in Cornwall. So I like that, and I think that fills in, like I said, with that show you saw watched called Destination Truth. But it's kind of weird how you kind of watch your show and it kind of like from one thing to the next you kind of think, well, what are you going to do now? And like when you turned up for the shark meet, it was like, what the hell? What's happening next? So what I'm interested in, I hear that you've got a seance show coming up. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me a little bit about that, obviously?
Yeah. So we did 2 episodes in the States. One was in New Orleans and then we moved up to Massachusetts. And the focus of interest for Massachusetts was a phenomenon called the Bridgewater Triangle. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the Bermuda Triangle, but in this very suburban area outside of Boston.
Cool.
It turns out that lots of very, very odd things happen there. And one of the things that we were looking into, we researched quite a few and met lots of different people, but one of them, which is what you're interested in, was a seance which took place in the Lizzy Borden house.
Yeah.
So we went, I met a lady called Luan Jolly who kind of states that she is a magnet for ghosts and spirits. We did a bit of EVP, which is the first time I'd ever done it, and that was horrible. And then I listened to a few of her old recordings, which are also horrible. I couldn't sleep after that. And yeah, then we when it was nice and dark, did a seance, and that was my first and only experience of that so far.
So you said the EVPs obviously shook it. I'm guessing did you go in? I'm guessing like most of the stuff, you probably went into it thinking that you was going to get nothing, and obviously by your reaction, then you obviously got something interesting.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I'm highly skeptical.
Yes.
Highly skeptical. I'm very fascinated by all these things, but very, very skeptical. We did the EVP, and I was very aware of all the things I've ever heard of all these kind of things going. Well, there's this noise and this noise. So I was deathly silent all these things to make sure there was no kind of false results. And when you hear it, I mean, it's not that it's necessarily there's anything really obvious, but what you hear is quite terrifying. I'll leave it at that.
Fair enough. That's okay. And the seance itself. So you obviously being Lizzy Borden house and that kind of stuff, and from what you're saying, a classic kind of Victorian seance. We're all sat around a table trying to communicate with spirits and stuff like that. And then obviously, did anything specific happen there that kind of?
Well, like I say, I'm very sceptical about these things, and I've watched several programs about how seances are often faked and table tipping is a scam. And I mean, it was filmed in the dark, but there was enough light. It was filmed with night vision, but there was enough light to be able to see what was going on. Mm-hmm. And I was very aware of watching, there were 3 of us, what was happening. And, my hands were very lightly on the table, and there was a lot of table movement, and I genuinely don't think it was either of the two ladies I was with.
Fair enough.
Honestly, like I would say there are the things that I've done, and I would say, yeah, that's bullshit.
No,
I don't think it was, and that's really weird because I never thought I would say that.
Well, it's because I've probably been in that situation, because when I first started investigating paranormal, I started as a massive skeptic, and then I entered the same sort of scenario where I was in a scenario where I'd done like seances and things like that, and I was put in a situation where I couldn't figure out how something had happened, and it was like it could only have been something paranormal, and then you kind of sit there thinking, what?
I wanted to find out that they were.
Yes, you wanted.
I wanted it to be untrue, and I wanted to be able to say, this is bullshit. Look, I can see you doing this.
Yeah.
And I couldn't.
No, that's the hardest thing when you can't do that.
And we had quite a few cameras. You know, there were different camera angles going on, and I think there's 2 cameras and possibly a GoPro. So there's floors being watched, and hands are being watched, and hands are ever so lightly. And you know, I know there are still so many people that can say, well, this can happen, and people are very skilled at doing this. But if that's what they were doing, they were very, very, very good at it.
Oh, I look forward to watching that then.
It's a good one. It's pretty, yeah. I would say that episode is probably my only ever in my whole life genuine paranormal experience.
Oh, cool. Weird how the seance room does it.
Yeah, I believe that there's something odd there. So,
after all these shows and going to all these places and obviously looking at different things, and also some of the paranormal stuff and witchcraft and stuff, where's your position now? Obviously, from what I've heard so far, you obviously started off a very sceptical kind of, I can prove this as incorrect kind of person. Where do you sit now? Are you kind of like, I've come at this with more questions than I had originally?
Well, I've always been, like I say, I've always been very sceptical, and one of my things is I don't want to believe that there is anything sort of paranormal, because that's just too scary.
Fair enough.
So it's kind of easier to say, no, it doesn't exist, because if it exists there, it exists here.
Yeah.
There's no reason why there's no, do you know what I mean? And then there are places that you go that give you the proof, and you always just go, it's fine. But actually then you think, well, no, actually, if there's something there, then there's something there.
Yeah.
So I'd say, I don't want to believe in it. I'd do more, if that makes sense. I'd like to know more. It's something I'd probably be more interested in finding, discovering more about and learning more about, and seeing, is this going to happen again elsewhere? Is this a one-off? Was it the situation?
That's good to know.
Yeah.
So I'm more onto the fence now, I think, by the sounds of it. Kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it's always, it's a really hard one to describe. So it's not that I ever used to go, no, there is no such thing as the paranormal. It was, but I'd never experienced it for myself. And as much as you watch and read, you've got to experience it yourself.
Yeah, totally. Would you agree as well? Now you've done that show and all that, been to all those places and done that kind of. Do you think that there's a kind of addiction to it, where you think, I've just done that now, and want to know, and I want to go do it again to find out a little bit more, a little bit sort of like maybe the adrenaline stuff.
It's like anything. It's learning of any sort, and that's what I like, and that's kind of been the common theme throughout every project I've done. Is it's experiencing and learning different things, from how a tractor is made to actually, do UFOs exist? and it's just another avenue where you can find out more about what's really going on in the world. So it's that's kind of the addiction, if that makes sense.
Oh, brilliant. So I'm guessing we don't know whether there's going to be a series 2 yet.
We don't know yet. I'm currently not filming at the minute, and I'm guessing it will probably be beginning of next year if I do, because I'm due to birth a week on Saturday. But it would be nice if there was a series 2. It was a good series. It's a little bit schizophrenic in places, like you're saying, there's so many different things. But I think that's also kind of part of its charm in a way. It's not just a one avenue show.
No, I liked it because it's quite. It felt like quite energy and well paced, kind of like quite an adrenaline kind of. Like And go there, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and I bounce from one thing to another. And I think in one couple of shows, you kind of go from one subject to another, but then they kind of cross a little bit as well, like in Cornwall with the witches and smugglers and things like that as well. And it kind of draws it in together, and it's like this kind of. I like the way that kind of keeps that interest, and I think shows these days need to do that. And things, especially with paranormal or even things that are supernatural or just a little bit weird sometimes, they need to kind of step out of that mould that they've been going in for the last 10 years probably now, in order to give us something a little bit new and a little bit different that we can get interested in.
Well, I think the way I always describe the series was I basically go to different cities in the world and get under the skin and find out what makes them them.
Yeah.
So the city dictates the story. So I'm in one episode, like I said, I go to it's not city. I go to the Sahara and I meet people and I trek across Sahara, which is totally different to Bigfoot hunting in Massachusetts. But that's what that place is about, and that's what the story is there. So it's rather than I'm off to find dangerous things happening, I'm just off to find out what happens here. Put me in a city and let's see what happens there. So yeah, I mean, whether the format was fine-tuned or anything, it would be nice to do a second series. There's a lot of hard work though. I'm not sure how I'd be able to do it, but it was very good fun.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, there's a lot of what's the word, controversy about seances. So I was really glad that I got to try one, because it's something, especially I used to watch a lot of Darren Brown, and he's so anti-psychic, anti-seance, and does a very good job of explaining why it's bullshit, basically. And so that's something that's always been in my head. And so it was really interesting for me to get to experience it for myself. I won't say that I'm particularly easy to take in or gullible. And obviously, like most people in this situation, you're going to get scared.
Yeah.
And you get caught up in the situation.
But
even, when you're there and you're trying to be sensible as well, and not just willing to go, yep, I believe all of this. And in fact, I would get in trouble sometimes when I was filming, because there were some things that I just wouldn't believe or be scared enough. And they'd be like, you need to be more scared. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not. So do you see what I'm saying? It's going to something which you've heard quite a lot about with an open mind. In fact, less than an open mind. No, an open mind, but wanting to see the truth. It's very interesting.
It's cool. Is there anywhere that you obviously haven't gone to yet that you would like to go to now you've done this series?
Do what? Well,
it's always a classic question, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. There's the suicide forest in Japan, which I'm quite interested in. But knowing the way this series is set up, I know what would happen, and I'd be a bit too scared. Because there is a scene in this Massachusetts episode which didn't make it into the final cut, which I'm gutted about because it was horrible, where they leave me alone in the Hockomock Swamp. And if you don't know anything about that place, it's reputed to be incredibly haunted, scary, Bigfoot, and then there's the Freetown State Forest, which is where there was cults and murders, and I'd been there that afternoon talking to a retired police officer about some horrible stories, and they took me to the swamp forest, and gave me some EVPs that had been taken in the forest to listen to by myself in the dark, and it was so horrible, and that didn't make it into the episode, so I was really annoyed. So if I did do something like go to, for example, the Suicide Forest of Japan, they'd make me be there on my own at night, and it would just be too scary. I'm not willing to say that to them.
I suppose that one you just mentioned, though, the swamp forest is like a double whammy, though, because it's haunted, so you've got that supernatural element, but you've also got the very real murders and all that kind of stuff, and scary people kind of thing, the element around the corner, so you feel unsafe because of the human alive kind of element kind of it as well, which is I think is probably more scary because you don't know what
it's a genuine threat. It's not just like, I mean, how many people die because of spirits and ghosts, and like it's a horrible, it's terrifying, but people are a tangible threat. And that was kind of part of it, because there were so many different things going on in the Bridgewater Triangle, so many different, I'm not going to say threats, experiences. There's Bigfoot, UFOs, loads of tiny little things that happen in the forest, cults, Satanists, Lizzy Borden. And ultimately the one that really affected me was the what happened in the forest and the cults. And some of the stories there were just the worst thing I've ever heard. Horrible. And then, that stays with you. And then if you've got to be in that situation, just going, yeah, no, this is shit. I was so unhappy. I was in such a bad mood. You'll hear me say this a few times about different episodes, but this was the worst one. And I was like, right, you can leave me, but don't leave me, don't go too far away. I want you still, if something happens, because I'm a girl on my own in a forest. The place I've been left where, in Naples, I got left in the underground tunnels.
Yeah.
But they were safe from people.
Yes,
They were
yeah.
locked, and there was one entrance that they know of. And once I knew that they were locked, it was like, right, well, this is really scary, but I know I'm physically safe.
Yeah, you're on your own.
Deal with that, but if I hear footsteps, it's not a human being.
Yeah.
But that, you're like, well, this is a giant forest, you physically can't leave me and go across the back of the car. And when they were like, well, I'm going to, I was like, no, if you do that, I am not working tomorrow. I will do nothing tomorrow. You will get nothing out of me, and I will destroy the whole episode. Quite a bit of trouble for saying that. But yeah, there was one point where I was in this little tent that I'd put up, and I thought they were throwing stones at the tent. It wasn't them.
Oh, no.
And then afterwards I was like, you're fucking kidding me. And then once that was horrible. Oh, yeah. It was really scary. I wish that would stayed in because it was so horrible. Yeah.
Is there any reason why they took it out? Does it just make not...
I don't know, they didn't tell me. I mean, in most episodes there tends to be a scene that doesn't make it in.
Yeah, it's fair enough.
We'll film something and it just doesn't fit with the story, or there's not enough time because the episodes are only 48 minutes. So we spend quite a lot of the episode is on the Lizzy Borden house because there was so much happening there.
Yeah.
Maybe they just thought it wasn't relevant or they couldn't fit it in. They never really explained. I didn't know until I saw the final cut and I was like, oh, that's a shame. All right. Thanks for that.
All that time in the forest on my own. Not so.
Well, it could have... Would it have been worse? I don't know. My producer didn't realise until afterwards that the Lizzy Borden house is actually now a B&B, and people can spend the night there, although very few apparently managed to spend the night there. And he was really pissed off that I didn't bring it up and say, hey, why don't I spend the night here? And apparently I should have done with GoPros around the room. But it was hard enough to sleep in our reputedly haunted Holiday Inn in Taunton, so the Lizzy Borden house definitely wouldn't have been getting any sleep.
Something happened tonight that has spooked me so much.
My heart is absolutely pounding. I'm quite nervous.
And it has changed my mind.
This right here is the sofa where they found his body.
There must be a story that no one knows about.
So, Mrs. Borden, is it okay if we ask some questions?
I'm afraid to go to sleep. To sleep. To sleep.
No problem, thank you very much. I also appreciate it.
And I'll continue watching the series.
Thank you very much. All right.
And I'll see you soon. Bye.
Cheers. Thank you, bye.
Bye.
I'm afraid to go to sleep.